Everyone checking in on USMJ. So we already know at this point that USMJ had a much more bullish day on both Thursday and Friday comparative to Canadian MJ. So we're continuing to keep an eye on that. And I'm going to organize the names here that we're looking at based on my interest in them. I'm going to have GWPH and IIPR first just because they're the bigger, older names and IIPR is performing really well. Then I got the 6 names that I am most interested here: Cura, GTII, IAN, OH, MedMen, CWEB, and actually TRUL as well. Then we got a couple other names that are doing well here. And then we got the names that are really not performing comparative to the rest of the sector, and they are weaker at the end. KSHB, NBEV, Tilt, and MRMD, unfortunately not seeing the kind of gains that the other names are. So for GWPH, we have a tightening range here, and it's a bit of a fake out of a break of this tightening range, and that's due to the overall market. We had the S&P 500 with a significant bull move after the FOMC on Thursday, and then Friday a complete turnaround giving it back. So those two candlesticks do match what we were seeing in the broader market. So here's the tightening range on the daily chart that broke bull and then bear right back into this pattern. Key short-term support is 165.02. And resistance is going to be 177.37, and then the all-time high of 182.23. Other than that, if we break bearish and lose the daily uptrend, the weekly uptrend is still extremely strong. The last weekly higher low was 140, so the bulls have a lot of space to work with. IIPR on the daily time frame has been extremely strong. We've seen blue sky breakout now 5 days in a row. Obviously, profit taking, again, probably in line with what the rest of the market was doing on Friday. And we lost the higher low every day pattern. We had been seeing a higher low every day for the last week or so. And when we broke 87.87, that changed it. So now we're in daily consolidation and we're looking for a daily higher low to form compared to 76.59 to keep the bulls in full control. Keep in mind this weekly chart is pretty extended. We did establish a support level down at 66.55, but just looking at the last, or I should say the first few months of this year, it's been a massive bull move. And we can be looking for some weekly consolidation probably coming in the near-term future. But at this point, just focusing on the daily and looking for the daily higher low to form. CURA had that PR blitz on Thursday, followed through on Friday. Nice job holding up. I mean, we saw another 10% move to the high of the day on Friday. And if we look at the hourly chart, we're now looking at consolidation and an equilibrium there. So we have the high, low of the pullback. Lower high was set, excuse me, and now we're looking for a higher low compared to 12.14. So overall, the bulls do still have the uptrend intact. We'll see if we can form that higher low, 12.14, and we'll see which direction this breaks. If this breaks bullish, all-time highs are coming, and if it breaks bearish, we zoom out to the daily and look for a daily higher low to form. Bulls have tons of space to work with because of how strong they have been the past 2 gap up opens in a row. GTII, also a very strong 2 days here. So looking at it on the weekly time frame, we have seen continuation. So we had the high of the bull move, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, just keeping the weekly uptrend intact with the next clear resistance at 21.58. And GTII got right up towards that level, 21.29 this week. And the daily chart, let's see if the hourly is similar to Cura. And it's a little bit stronger. We have a higher low at 21.01. And if we can break 21.29, we're looking at 21.58. 2 key resistance levels early for next week, as GTII has been a very strong bull over the last few weeks. IAN, a very strong 2 days in a row. Volume really picking up here. And looks like one of the highest volume days ever. Second highest volume day ever on IAN. Daily chart saw that continuation with the higher low and higher high. We broke 806 resistance, although we did not close above it. Ideally, bulls want to close above that level. But zooming out to the weekly, this is continuation, and there's limited resistance. 869 comes after 818. And on the daily time frame, anything above 716 is a higher low. So I already have my IAM position. Again, I mentioned in a recent video, I am building USMJ positions, and I'm doing so very slowly. I'm scaling in, and the last thing I'm going to do is enter a full position and, hope it just goes up from there. I'm going to scale in slowly. I'm going to be watching to see if the S&P 500 is going to give us a monthly equilibrium or whether we're headed towards all-time highs, and that's going to dictate how aggressive I am with my scaling in of my positions. So this is an ongoing process that's going to last another month or two, And again, just slow and steady. I've got no rush here. I'm looking multiple years out, and that's that. So the hourly time frame for IAN, higher low established at 753, and the bulls are going to try and break 818 first thing on Monday, and if we can't do so, we'll have an hourly equilibrium to be watching. OH, blue sky breakout, inside bar, broke bullish on Thursday, just barely, and then big time follow through on Friday. And the weekly time frame, we can see we closed right on that previous blue sky level, $11. We did break it by a couple percentage points, but the bulls want a more clear break. But this is just another one of those patterns. Look at the weekly chart. All-time high, consolidation, lower high, support built, and continuation. Look at Kira on the weekly. Happened a little faster, but pretty much the same pattern. Very bullish weekly all-time high charts. So for OH, the hourly support level is looking to be established because that bull move was pretty much all at the end of the day on Friday. So we'll need an hourly higher low, and we'll see if the bulls can break 1127 on Monday to be looking for blue sky breakout continuation. So MedMen had the news, but in a weak market day, it does look like that led to some profit taking on the gap up open. So anything above 392 is a higher low. So we're going to look for a daily higher low to form. Right now, support is 422. But the weekly time frame is starting to shift momentum a bit here. So now I'm getting interested in MedMen because the trend is changing and the momentum and sentiment is shifting as well. They received news that they have a $250 million investment, which I believe is the biggest in a US MJ name to date. So that was definitely the reason for some attention. The weekly lower highs are 506 and 447. And we broke 447 on the gap up open, but we did not close above it. So I want to see a higher low on MedMen, and then we need weekly follow through with the goal of getting over 506 due to the lack of resistance above that level. We've already seen a lot of these other names get to areas on their weekly timeframes with a lack of resistance, and MedMen just has not done so because it's been much more bearish over the last 2 months or so. CWEB on the daily chart, blue sky breakout just continues, a raging bull. So missed that entry when I did the video yesterday. I believe it was yesterday, but we saw that little bull move at the end of the day that broke resistance, and then we saw follow through, and we closed at the all-time high. So a very strong close. CWEB bulls are in complete control, 27 and 28 psychological resistance. At this point, over the last 2 weeks, we have run 50%. So again, you're not going to find many Canadian MJ names that have run 50% in the last 2 weeks, and that's just that risk to reward being on the side of the USMJ names. And again, risk, can't forget the fact that risk is on that side as well. I do not anticipate this banking bill to pass through. It's going to be a long, slow road, but I would be surprised if it were to pass through the Senate. So perhaps we see a negative reaction once that bill gets knocked down, if that is indeed how it's going to play out. So we have to be aware of that as well. And we already have some opposition. I believe there's some Republicans that are looking to try and delay that bill from the vote even on Tuesday. So hourly higher low on CWEB, we have down at 2440 support. Anything above that keeps the bulls in full control and a really strong end of the day. TRUL couldn't get much follow through on Friday. We did break resistance by a couple pennies, 5 pennies, and then pulled back. So little follow through there. The weekly time frame for TRUL, anything under 2030 is a lower high, and that's a ways away. So we might be setting up for a weekly equilibrium because of how much distance the bulls would have to cover to see that continuation. So I'm being patient on TRUL, and we're looking for is a lower high set with 2030, 1497, that's our range, and we're wondering, is this the lower high? If we see a bear break of 1714 on Monday, then we'll say, yes, that's our lower high being set, and we need a new higher low. Otherwise, it's just a tightening hourly range that the bulls are trying to shift momentum back from. So I don't like the fact that resistance is still so far away, and the setup for a potential tightening weekly pattern remains here. So again, that's a reason that I'm going to be patient when looking at TRUL for potential entry. GGB, weekly time frame. And this is actually a name. I'm going to move that down to the weaker side of things. HARV. Blue sky breakout, strong close. New daily higher low this week at 1095. Close up at the high of the day at the end of the week. Hourly support is down at 1778. And just one of many names that saw that last hour of Friday with some bull surge to ensure that strong close. And there's your blue sky breakout. Again, In the last 3 weeks, we've gone from $8 to $13. So that's well over 50% in a 3-week span of time. Big risk and big reward in this sector, 68% in that amount of time on big time bull volume. How many names in the US sector are in blue sky breakout? How many Canadian names are in blue sky breakout? And the answer is something along the lines of, 5 or 6 on the US side to, I don't know about, I guess, VFF on the Canadian side, but not many else aside from that. CVSI had that bull break of 515 we were waiting on. Big time follow through on Thursday through that level and getting continuation over all kinds of resistances. So look at this weekly chart. We had the clear bull break of this equilibrium. We then consolidated for more than the bulls would like to see. We consolidated for 7 weeks, but we never really clearly lost the weekly uptrend. And now we're seeing this continuation move. 654 is the most important level because after that, there is very little resistance. And this is a big time bull week to get back over these resistance levels to establish new support and not lose the uptrend. And the daily chart overextended. There's a big upper wick. That's a bearish reversal shooting star candlestick on the daily chart. The hourly is still pretty healthy overall. If we break 563 on Monday, then we'll look for daily consolidation to form a higher low. If that level holds, the bulls keep complete control. But CVSI now in a much better, much more comfortable position on the weekly time frame because of how we ended this week. CL, another name that's blue sky breakout. So we probably have more than 6 on the US side of things. But this has just been a straight uptrend since inception. We have the daily higher low, most recently established down at $12, and the hourly chart higher low is down at 1303. And what happened on Friday is we have some of these names that broke hourly supports, but the end of the day Friday run completely shifted that momentum. So a strong move, but there was profit taking at the end of the day here, so a very different close. We didn't close up at the high like we saw on some of these other names. But again, just the high risk, high reward nature of these stocks that are thinly traded, that's an 8% range on that one hourly candlestick. And you're not going to see an 8% range on a high liquid name like, Kron or CGC without some significant news behind it. So that's what we're looking at when we talk about risk to reward, comparing the different geographic regions of this sector. So let's see who's in all-time highs. CL's all-time highs. Harv is all-time highs, so that's 2. CWEB is 3. OH is 4. GTII, are we there? Yep, 5. Nope, take that back. 4. Cura is there, so that's 5. IIPR has been there, that's 6. GWPH was just there, so 7. Lots of blue sky breakouts is the bottom line. So now we're getting to our weaker names. So KSHB, let's look at the weekly time frame here. And this is the one where we have the high of 720, the low of the pullback of 499, our lower high of 649, and now we're looking for a higher low to be established. This is worth watching because if we break this inside bar bullish at 580 this coming week, then our new higher low will be established at 544, and that will be a stop level to use on this weekly chart. And we'll still look to be in a tightening range, but that'll be a play closer to that support. Other play would be just to wait for the weekly equilibrium to give us a break. So here on KSHB, we need to see a break of 580 and 586 to shift this momentum. And the bulls are hoping that it's giving us an inverse head and shoulders pattern on the daily with our left shoulder. This would be the head, this would be the right shoulder, and our neckline breaking would be 580 and 586. So still needs some proving to do, but worth keeping an eye on for that shift in momentum as the bulls are building a bit of a base of support here in the mid $5 range. NBEV on the weekly time frame is seeing weakness. We've been consolidating for 7 weeks at this point. Bulls have attempted some movement the last 2 weeks, and these big upper wicks show us that they're still getting knocked down. So I like this pattern on the monthly time frame better with our high, low, lower high, and we're looking for a monthly higher low compared to 303. So that's the key support level to be watching. It's a nice equilibrium on the monthly time frame. It's just going to require a lot of patience because it's on the monthly time frame. So we need a daily trend change as step number 1. And we actually did get one here, 569. We broke it by a couple pennies with zero follow through and increasing bear volume. So that's a red flag. That was our first daily trend change in over a month. And it was a fake out with no follow through. So that keeps us even more patient, especially because we closed at the low of the week to end the week. So 495 is the only support nearby. If we break 495, then we're looking down into the mid to low $4 range, still looking for this monthly higher low to form. Worth keeping an eye on, but this is, again, one to keep on the back burner and be patient with as we look for the potential entry opportunity, because the last thing I want to be doing is entering into bear momentum when we have so much bull momentum in the sector. When I'm looking, it all depends on the time frame that you're looking at. If you're looking years out, then we're looking to potentially begin to slowly scale in the $4 range down, through the mid $3 range if we were to end up pulling back that much. If we're looking shorter term, we want to be with the names that have the bull momentum now, obviously. GGB has been weak. We've been consolidating for a couple of months, lower high and lower low on the weekly time frame. You're not going to find many names in the USMJ sector that have a weekly downtrend. MedMen is one of them that's trying to shift. Same thing as NBEV. NBEV on the weekly time frame has seen a couple of upper wicks recently, and GGB has seen the same thing. So the only support level nearby is 443, and you can see it's a bit choppy on the daily time frame, even just the way it trades. Not really a fan, but we've got support of 460, 443, and then we're looking down at 409. So no sign of trend changes anywhere nearby. And at this point, we would have to see a break of 535 to start to change that trend. Tilt. So tilt on the weekly chart, just a clear lower high pattern, lower high at 348. This week's a lower high at 325. The daily chart is trying to change the trend here, and they can do so. Our higher low on the daily is 279. That's the must-hold short-term support, and the bulls have to see a break of 325. That would change the daily trend. We've already broken some daily lower highs. This would be a higher low and a higher high. That would be the first clear shift in momentum that we've seen in a while. And again, this is one on the monthly time frame where we're just looking for a monthly higher low to be established, and that's potentially happening this month. Keep an eye on it. Let's see if that 279 support can hold this coming week, and a little bit more promising than some of these other names in terms of the potential to change this momentum in favor of the bulls. And MRMD, another one that's just been consolidating. We just lost weekly support this week by breaking 350. The next support after 372. Actually, it's 335. After 335 is 333, so a couple support levels right there. It's a potential bear flag on the daily time frame. Again, a lot of bear volume, a leg down, just not interested in this name right now with that weakness. Another one that the monthly time frame is a little bit more clear, where we have our high, low, lower high, and we're looking for the higher low. So for the names that are weak, the monthly time frame on a lot of them has some clarity, and we're looking for those monthly higher lows to form. We're just not seeing signs that that's close to happening just yet. So NBEV and MRMD specifically on the monthly time frame, worth keeping an eye on. And KSHB has a clearer weekly chart. Let's see what the monthly looks like there. Don't like that view. I like the weekly. So keep an eye on those names. Again, those are, if you're having a list next to your computer that you're writing down, hopefully you are, to keep things nice and organized. So that's what I've got right now. I've got, my tickers and my game plans and how much I've entered at this point, how much I have yet to enter, timeline of when I want to do it, and putting on the back burner, right now, live, I'm going to write down these names: KSHB weekly, and then NBEV and MRMD monthly. That's just a reminder for me next to my computer, so every day or two I will check in and look for the monthly shift to potentially look for good entries on names that have not run yet. So I appreciate you watching. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Check out the Canadian MJ video. Let's see if the views pick up on this USMJ video now that the action is picking up in this space. It's been a very clear, it's probably about, USMJ probably gets about 4,000 views, and Canadian MJ gets over 25% more consistently. And we'll keep an eye on that as well. It's a nice metric to be watching. So S&P 500 closed with a ton of weakness at the end of this week on Friday. And the question is, how long is that going to keep up? I'm going to be watching the weekly uptrend on SPY. That's going to dictate a lot. If we lose the weekly uptrend on SPY, the monthly equilibrium is extremely likely, and that tells me to slow down my scaling in, because that could mean that the market's going to pull back for a couple of months, which obviously would add some downside pressure, keeping in mind my point that the USMJ space has less correlation. There's definitely correlation to the market, but there is less correlation because they're traded on the OTC, and in my opinion, that means there's less bots and algos, less significant big money playing these names. If you look at the Canadian video that I did yesterday, everybody had the same 5-minute charts. Everybody was tick for tick with the S&P 500, and you're not going to find that in the USMJ space. So there is major differences. Also, the fact that we don't have pre and post market trading. Some of the names do, like GWPH, but that's about it. Nobody else has extended hours trading. That is a factor as well. So there's lots of little small differences in these two sectors that determines, different ways to trade it. I cannot trade the USMJ space the way that I've been trading the Canadian MJ space. My style is not applicable to this different market. So I have to adjust. And to do so, it's thinking of a more longer-term game plan rather than short-term day trading. So thanks again. Have a good day. See you soon. So Adventure Time, Chapter 14 or something. We are now crossing the Colorado border into Utah. This is a picture of some fire ants accepting my peanut bribe. I've been feeding bugs my whole life. I used to feed spiders in my windowsill cold-cut turkey or ham, and they would eat it. I've been feeding ants. We feed them sugar. Fun to just watch. I just watch bugs. Anyways, these are bones from dinosaurs just along hiking trails. So this is a spine. This is Dinosaur National Monument in Utah, and they have street names like Brontosaurus Way. There's a big femur or something like that sticking out of a rock. Pretty crazy that you can just see these dinosaur bones. There's my first selfie of the trip with my new friend. That's some more petroglyphs just on rock on the side of the road. And pretty cool to, try and interpret what they were suggesting. Who knows? But common themes of spirals and coming off of arms, not sure. Anyways, it's just one of these spots that's on BLM public land where there's your dirt road, there's your scenery, and there's a whole rock wall, and that's just an art studio for ancient man thousands of years ago. You can see the little drawings right there on the left, some of them. And then there's just a spot you could just camp by a lake right over there. So a nice little adventure. There is nothing developed aside from a parking spot near the lake. There's no signs. There's no people. And it's great. So I was just walking around looking at all the different art. That's where I set up my tent. And I got woken up by a moose the next morning walking through this river here. And the moose ended up just sitting on the side of the river for a good part of the day. And I spent my afternoon on this piece of land there. It's mushy sand. And I would just run as fast as I could from one side and then just slide on my bare feet and go 12 feet. It was just like a mud pit. I had a lot of fun. And there was a rafting crew that floated by while I was acting a fool. And a storm came out of absolutely nowhere, just right over the hill, and these big bursts of wind. And this tent ended up in that water. So I was not prepared in terms of I had not staked it down yet. And again, there was no wind on the day. And it was just like all of a sudden, really dark clouds, winds going nuts. And I jumped in my car to, avoid the rain and had forgotten to stake that bad boy down. So didn't get soaked, didn't sink, but definitely made its way to the water. More shots of the river from the other side. And that is Utah. So didn't expect to see a moose in Utah, but did. So we're going to go over to Canyonlands Arches National Park and getting towards the second half, towards the end of the journey at this point. So I appreciate you watching. Have a great weekend. Check out the USMJ video. Check out the SPY market video. Do some good things. Have a party. Make a friend. Pet a dog.